Welcome back to Liberty and Finance. We have a special version of our Ask the Brokers live session tonight. I'm Dunnigan Kaiser, your host, as are
Elijah K. Johnson and Kaiser Johnson.
So we are all licensed and bonded brokers for precious metals through the state of Minnesota under Miles Franklin Precious Metals. We're here to answer your questions about what are the ins and outs of purchasing physical precious metals, gold, silver, platinum, or palladium that you can have delivered or stored in the vault, and also about IRAs. And we thought we'd kick it off tonight before we get to all your questions, which you're submitting in the live stream. If you're watching us on YouTube, make sure you go to the live chat, click the live chat area. You'll see a whole bunch of scrolling questions. If you aren't able to get in the live chat, it might mean you're not a subscriber yet to our channel. So go out and subscribe to the channel on YouTube. Then you can participate in the live chat. We'll be watching this live chat stream for questions to answer tonight. We're going to answer your questions about gold and silver, anything you want. Anything's fair game. We'll try to get ones that are of general interest. Remember, if you are thinking about a question, probably 100 or 1,000 other people that are going to be watching this are also thinking about it. So do it for them and do it for all of us. Help us out with the questions tonight. That'll keep things rolling. We're going to kick it off with three that we didn't get to last time, which was shipping, insurance, and vaulting. So first of all, I'll just kick off real basics on shipping, and then these guys will chime in at any point that I leave something out. One of the questions people ask us is, if I buy precious metals through Miles Franklin, how do I get it? How do I get my physical precious metals? And I'll say that about 95% or more of our clients ask to have us ship it directly to them, which we do using either generally UPS. UPS is the most common. Gold typically goes like overnight or second day air. Silver typically goes UPS ground because it's much larger and heavier. And if you require us to ship to a US post office box, or you want to ship USPS registered, then we have to go to the Postal Service. So it's either, most of them go UPS. They can also go USPS if we need to. As far as where it gets delivered to, most people by far have it delivered to their home or their place of business. The reason some people choose their place of business is for two reasons. One is because they may not be home during the day, they may be working, and you need to have someone home during the day because the level of service that we ship, all of our shipments is not only fully insured, but adult signature required. So they will be ringing the doorbell and asking for an adult signature if they are upholding their duty under the level of service that we ship everything. And so therefore, if somebody's typically not home during the day, some people have it delivered to their place of business. The second most common location people have us deliver it to, if they're not going to be home at all, or if they don't even want boxes showing up at their home, heavy boxes, then you can have it shipped to your local UPS customer center. It's not a UPS store. It's not a UPS drop-off site. It's a UPS customer center. We'll help you look that up when you ask for that method of shipping. The good news about that is that the boxes will not show up at your door. You'll still have the tracking to tell you when they're there, but then you have 5 business days to get in there during their office hours and show your photo ID and sign for your boxes, and then they'll give them to you. And the extra good news about that one is that the in-transit insurance, the full value insurance that's on your shipment, it remains in effect until you have them in your hands, because the shipper cannot claim that they have accomplished delivery because you haven't picked it up yet, because you're going to the will call office, you're signing for it with a photo ID and a signature. So those are some tidbits about shipping. Let's see, cost of shipping.
Yeah, so shipping is just a flat $15 fee anywhere in the US. If you get to 500 ounces of silver or 10 ounces of gold on any one order, we'll cover the cost of shipping for you. Also, if you have some kind of combination that adds up to that 5 ounces of gold, 250 ounces of silver, 2 ounces of gold, 400 ounces of silver, that kind of thing. And it's either gold or platinum, 10 ounces. So yeah, that's when we cover shipping for you.
How about the packaging, how it looks when it arrives?
That's exactly, yeah, what I was just going to mention there. So we were talking about how, we can ship it to UPS customer care center, and that gives extra privacy. But also when we ship it, there's no indication that it is precious metals. So on the label will not even say, it will not say precious metals, it will not say gold and silver, it will not say even the name Miles Franklin won't be on the package. Some people are sometimes concerned if they order, a monster box of silver, it's a little heavy. So, people might be like, well, what is this package? So in that case, if you are concerned about that, always, a UPS customer care center gives the maximum privacy. But like I said, it's always packaged discreetly, so there's no indication of what the contents is inside.
Yeah, some of our clients have a ready answer in case a nosy driver might ask, gee, that's a heavy box, because a monster box of silver is about the size of a shoebox and weighs almost about 40 pounds. So if somebody asks a question, some people have an answer ready, like, oh, we order ammo, or oh, it's ceramic tiles for our remodeling, or spare parts. My husband does a lot of fixing on cars, so we need spare parts, that kind of thing. So it's quite common that people have a ready answer just in case there might be a question. But if you want to avoid that question, go to the customer center. And that leads us to the question of insurance, which is also another thing that Miles Franklin does for your privacy. In addition to, in fact, if you look at Miles Franklin's business practices, it's all built around maximizing customer service to you with personalized private service. So we go to the extent of the law in all cases to try to maximize your privacy. And that includes no reporting on any purchase of metals that you do. It includes no indication on the outside of the package that there's anything of interest or value inside. But even the insurance, every package we ship is 100% fully insured, but the shipper doesn't know that. So UPS or USPS that's delivering our package only knows of a very small value, a couple $100 that are of insurance that's placed on that, just so it gets a little bit of extra special handling. But the full value of insurance, and it can be significantly more than that, is privately placed with a separate major insurer, such as Travelers Insurance or Lloyd's of London, for the full value of the package. So if there were the rare occasion of a loss or breakage or something like that along the way, and we do a trace through the shipper and they find out that what happened, the full value will be repaired, replaced. But every person who touches your package along the way is not aware of the value of the package. So that's also for your protection and your privacy. And vaulting. We have two main vaulting programs.
Yeah, so that would be in North Dakota, actually, and also the Brinks locations across the country and in Canada. If you want specific information on the storage facilities, just send us an email at libertyandfinance@protonmail.com. We'll get back to you right away on that. Just some with Brinks, it's actually Miles Franklin has a special deal with Brinks that we're always going to be charging by the ounce. So that's a very special deal.
It's exclusive to North America, flat rate insurance program by weight rather than by the market value of your storage. And any special reason people might want to consider Brinks versus Dakota Depository?
A couple different reasons. One, I mean, the biggest reason I would say to consider Brinks, two big reasons. One is that flat rate storage. And then secondarily, the fact that you can store in Brinks in multiple locations in the US and also in Canada. And there's some ease of, moving it between different Brinks institutions there and that kind of thing. If you ever want to move it to a different one. One of the big reasons to choose Dakota Depository is it actually shares space with the bullion exchange that we tend to use the most often. And so if you think that you are maybe buying some things, silver in hopes of in the near future swapping it into gold, or you think you want to buy some now and you might want to sell it back to us later on or something like that. There's definitely some, it consolidates your efforts there, and you don't have to then have it shipped to you and then ship it back and that kind of thing. We could just move one part of the vault to another part of the vault, and it's taken care of.
Yeah, so anytime that you would buy or sell or swap, if you store in the Dakota Depository, which is co-located with Miles Franklin bullion operations in North Dakota, then there's nothing has to ship. So basically it just rolls down the hall from the operations floor into the vault or vice versa. So there's no packaging costs and delays, and there's no shipping handoffs and worrying, did my stuff make it? But what the biggest thing was for Melody and myself was thinking that in times of potentially increased political unrest or social unrest, riots, trucking disruptions, shutdowns, lockdowns, if you already have your stuff where you need it to be so that you can make your next move in your plan, there's one less variable, one less moving part in your whole plan.
That's something we've been talking a lot about the last few days, and any time that we've seen stuff change rapidly in the market. is that a lot of folks have a great plan about all the things that they're going to do, and oh well, when silver drops down to 18.25, then I'm going to buy this, and then when it goes back up to 20.25, I'm going to sell this. And plans are great, but everything takes time in what we're doing, and what you look to do. And so to be able to have a plan that has the minimum number of moving parts tends to be best. And so if your plan involves buying and selling in a hurry, it's certainly a good idea to consider Dakota Depository.
One other thing I'll say about storage is that all our storage facilities are segregated, audited, and allocated. So that distinguishes us from other storage facilities. A lot of other ones will have like pooled accounts. So you'll own, there will be a lot of silver there and you'll own a portion of that. We want your metal to be in your box and no one else is going to touch it. So, and that's what clients want as well. Because there's a lot of question out there with respect to the whole paper silver market, whether it's being manipulated, whether there's more paper out there than physical. When people are buying physical silver, it's for protection. They want to know that their metal is in their spot and it's not being mixed with anybody else's.
It's literally your metal. It's your physical ounces. So even if you send in some metal that you purchased before you even started working with Miles Franklin, you can open up a vault account. You can ship in metal if you've got too much in your house, or maybe you're downsizing, maybe you're moving to an apartment, maybe your situation changed, or you've got more than you feel comfortable having all in one place. Regardless where you bought the metal, if you put it up into storage, at some point in the future, whether you were to have it shipped back to you or whether you were to go in and pick it up personally, you will get exactly the same pieces. They are your personal property. They are your legal property. They are yours. Unlike some other programs where they do the pooled or unallocated accounts, they just have a category called 10-ounce silver bars. So you might put in some gorgeous Royal Canadian Mint, brand new mint fresh silver bars with sealed certificate, and you get back some, what Andy would call, dog something silver bars back. So just because they're silver bars not all things are created equal, and yours will be yours if you put them into allocated, segregated, and audited storage.
We have a question here from Sarge. This is one of our
Hey Sarge.
How's it going,
How
Sarge? See you on pretty much all the live streams. Thank you so much for watching. So the question is, can we order through Miles Franklin or through us and pick it up in Canada? And the interesting thing is, so Miles Franklin just partnered with a distributor in Canada, and you can just order it actually online. So it's mfbullion.ca.
As in Miles Franklin, so
As
MF,
exactly,
mfbullion.ca. You can order right off that website. You can pay in Canadian dollars, no international bank wire fee, no Canadian to US dollar conversion fees, no international shipping fees. It's by far the easiest way to do it if you're a Canadian citizen. But if you really want us to ship, if we're carrying something that they're not, or if we have a special that's not on that website, it is possible, I've done this, to be able to ship to, again, a UPS customer center in Canada where you can pick it up from there. But you want to really be confident that, we're going to tell you what the location is, and you make sure and tell us where that one is, so there's no question about that we're shipping to the right one. But it can be done, but there are costs associated with it.
Yeah, it's just more expensive on the shipping end.
And the payment, you'll pay an international bank wire, and you'll have to go through your bank because it has to be in US dollars.
Switch it to US dollars and that kind of thing.
So we can do it.
Definitely. We have another question here from Neil. I see you often
Neil.
Also on the chat. Thank you so much for watching and being a frequent viewer here. What is the platinum demand like recently? Just from my personal experience, there have been people purchasing platinum. It's definitely a whole lot less than gold and a whole lot less than silver. Most of the orders seem to be silver, or at least involve silver, as Andy Shackman has mentioned for a while there. And I think that just kind of points out the low demand for platinum comparatively, and how it could be a very good opportunity right now. We've heard from numerous people out there pointing out the anomaly in the price. Maurice Jackson, another broker.
That's been persisting for the last few years.
Today at the, yesterday at the Sprott conference.
Oh, we forgot to mention our surroundings here is unusual because we are actually using a room at the Boca Raton Hotel Resort, which is where they just wrapped up yesterday the closing remarks at the end of the Rule Symposium on Natural Resources Investing, which we've been at all week. Go ahead.
So Robert Friedman, who you may know is head of Ivanhoe Mining and Ivanhoe Electric here in the United States, and CEO of that. Friedland. What did I say? Friedland, excuse me. He was mentioning, he's big on copper right now, but also talking about the huge demand for industrial demand for platinum that is coming in the next few years and the next few decades here, and going, this is crazy that platinum is placed where it is right now as far as price goes, and mentioning he expects a major change in that as industrial demand continues to increase with green energy and green technology and all the multiple things.
It's kind of interesting. If you look at gold and silver and platinum, they are at three different places in this continuum. Gold is a monetary metal,
right?
Primarily a monetary metal, not primarily an industrial metal, whereas platinum is primarily an industrial metal, not primarily a monetary metal, and silver is both monetary and primary. And that's one of the things that, monetary and industrial. That's one of the things that Andy Scheckman keeps bringing up is, if you look at, we don't know which way the world's going to go. Is it going to go recession? Because if it goes into recession, we won't have as much industrial demand. But if it goes into inflation and all this, then we're going to have a lot of monetary demand. So silver has got you covered both ways, whereas gold is going to be the primary asset for asset protection, preservation of wealth in the case of in a monetary sense. And I really agree with one thing that Elijah, that you brought in, which is, again, Rick Rule was like, he's like the not only the founder, but kind of the backbone behind the entire Rule Natural Resources Symposium. One of the things he always brings out is you can either be a contrarian or be a victim. And being a contrarian means having to be willing to be wrong long enough before you're proven right. Because if you wait for the market or public sentiment or the mainstream media to convince you that you're right before you make your move, well, you're not being a contrarian anymore. You're just going with the herd. You're just buying into momentum, and you're way higher up the risk curve than if you had got in at a lower point. So the fact that platinum has been out of favor for a couple of years now in a historic, that's one thing Andy Scheckman always talks about, is look for historical anomalies. So this is a historical anomaly. It's been persisting for, like, I don't know exactly, 3 years or more, where platinum, normally trading up to 50% premium to gold or even more, has been approximately half the price of gold, give or take, for the past several years. So that's a historical anomaly. It's not been that way before. You can look at it and go, well, I guess it's changed forever, or you can go, whoa, this is a contrarian's opportunity. And I wanted to mention one more thing, and because somebody mentioned that almost all orders involve silver, quite a few still have gold, and fewer still have platinum. I had a significant client in the past month place 2 orders, and they had been, as many of you guys in the chat have been, diligently stacking for years, if not decades, and have already amassed quite a bit of gold and silver. And this individual ordered a significant number of platinum American Eagles, saying, I've never ordered platinum before. I really think I should at least have that leg in my portfolio. So interesting thoughts.
Yeah, and I was talking to Todd Bubba Horwitz about platinum just a few months ago, and yeah, one of the things that he mentioned was, nobody's talking about platinum. People hate platinum right now. And it's like, I was just like, that's exactly the thing that
that's what contrarian. That's what he contrarian's ears perk up. Yeah, that's right.
And I mean, I could say maybe I've gotten maybe a few platinum orders in the last month, but compared to silver, it's completely completely different market right now in the physical market here. So we did have a question a little bit earlier, and so the question actually was, they mentioned it's great to see us as a family here all together. How did we get into the industry? So I don't know if you
into the industry,
into the precious metal industry.
Okay, so yeah, you might want to, let's take a 2-step here. The first step is, how did we get into the topics of financial concerns and publishing about it? I'll let you cover that one. That's all his fault.
Yeah.
And then the other is, how did we get to be metals brokers, because that's a different part of the story. So I'll mention that one and we dragged you into
Sure.
that.
Sure. So I was interested in coin collecting. I think my sister actually was first interested in it, and then she got me interested in coin collecting when I was like 5 years old.
I will add a little color commentary, and that is that it wasn't just limited to coins. It was all things of intrinsic value. When we were leaving hotels, before we would leave the room, Elijah would run through the room, gathering little soap bottles and the little unused, wrapped up nice soap packets and anything. You know, if it's free and it's there and it's a value and it was for us and we didn't use it, let's use it. And then selling stuff on stands. And so it's that idea of exchanging and searching for value and collecting and gathering things has always been a strong suit of yours. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, and so interested in coin collecting, interested in value, and then was wondering, well, where does this money come from? Where does money come from? And that kind of took me down the rabbit hole of the Federal Reserve and being like, wait a second, they can just create money out of nothing. It's a pseudo government agency. Is it part of the government? Is it private? It's confusing story there. And I wanted to share this information that I had learned. So I started a YouTube channel back in 2012 when I was 16. And then Dunnigan, my father, started one, Reluctant Preppers, I think in 2013, 14. So we went from there. I took 2 years off to become a missionary with Focused Fellowship of Catholic University students, and then rejoined just about a year ago on Liberty and Finance here. So that's kind of the story cut short, but I know.
Well, yeah, and the reason that I got dragged into was because Elijah publishing these stories about where money really came from, he was so concerned about it that he had to get this message out there to people, and started interviewing, David Morgan and all kinds of people. And Carrie Lutz helped you get launched and that sort of thing. But he would bring his unyet released videos to the supper table and say, hey, you guys want to preview this with me before it goes live tonight? So it was our supper table entertainment, our dinner theater. And it became not entertainment, but gravely concerning to me as a father, husband, homeowner, head of household, that I felt, whoa, this is like, compared to anything else out there that's a looming risk that could really mess up our futures. This whole thing about financial risk was clear and present danger. So that's why I got dragged into that. And then after 8 years or so of publishing all these videos, interviewing all the guests that you guys are well familiar with, finally I had Rick Rule. I met with him when we were visiting you guys in California. I met with him in his office in Carlsbad, California. We talked to him about my personal financial situation, that sort of thing. And he said, what do you think about becoming a gold dealer? And I thought he meant own a gold dealership. And I thought that meant like having to buy millions of dollars worth of stacks of gold bars and keep them in my basement or something. And I thought, oh man, that sounds way too complicated. No, I'm not interested at all. And then about 6 months after that, I was talking to Maurice Jackson, who's the head of Proven and Probable. You guys probably know Maurice. And he said, have you talked to Andy Schechtman about becoming a licensed gold dealer? And I said, what are you talking about? You're the second person that brought this up to me. I talked to Andy Schechtman, and it was like, boom, this is a perfect fit. And that's how we got into being licensed. So we went through the licensure process, got licensed as a gold dealer. And then I was able to go full time about 6 months into that. And my son Kaiser also had an opportunity where he was going to be more available than previously, and was able to get involved as well, got licensed as well. And when Elijah came back in from his missionary stint and was looking for a way to re-enter this world, as it looks like we figured out there's room for more here. We can complement each other. So that's how we get into the gold and silver business.
And I think it kind of comes full circle, because like the original idea behind the channel was helping people be aware of the current financial situation. But then with selling precious metals, it's like, wow, this is not just helping people be aware, but we're actually taking action and helping people take action in that. So it's been fantastic.
I know some other channels also sell emergency food, tools, books, that kind of stuff. And we've got references to some books and that sort of stuff. But so far, the precious metals has been a direct way that we can, actually work directly with people, talking with them about what their needs are, making sure that they're able to cover their bases for keeping their family safe from financial risks in that way. It's been a big boon to take that next step beyond just awareness.
And maybe we should put a priority on answering all the questions that are here. But I know you and I had a conversation a little bit earlier in the week that I thought was worth mentioning about the client who had asked me after our last Ask the Brokers,
Oh.
hey, you guys are talking about, we can't find silver, I mean, silver is scarce. It's going away. And yet Andy Scheckman can still find 500,000 ounces for somebody and that kind of thing. What do you mean when you say, silver is scarce? And I know do you think that's all right to address for 2-3 minutes, 7?
Yeah, we can just let's take a minute or two on that. And one of the aspects that Andy has reminded us more recently that he's talking about is because he's looking strategically down the road.
Right.
The owner of a business, the CEO of a business, it has a strategic responsibility, not just operations. Is like right now, today, we got to get these orders out the door.
Right.
That's one thing. The next step beyond getting these orders out the door is how do we replenish our inventory? And that's it's not just let's buy in stuff tomorrow that we can get in to sell tomorrow. That's not how it works. It's 2 months, 3 months, or more down the road that have to be scheduled, committed, paid in advance, logistics arranged, everything months in advance to get allocations from the major mint distributors, et cetera, so that you can get the shipments and huge amounts of credit extended to be able to make those payments possible and everything. All of that takes not just today kind of operations planning, but takes some advanced planning. But then as a business owner, and you're really worried about the strategy and the future of a business, he's looking years down the road going, where is this going? What he's seeing is that the extraordinary work. I remember one time in the hospital seeing a sign on the wall where at the nurses station where it said, "Be like a duck, calm and collected on the surface, and underneath paddle like H." And anyway, just that Andy and the team that are doing this replenishing of the stock through this advanced purchasing and everything are working way more than twice as hard as they had to used to work in order to get in less than what we used to be able to keep things in stock, because we ran out. I mean, 2 months ago we had no sovereign minted silver coins from any of the 6 major mints in the world
for a month
in stock at all for an entire month. About half the time in the past 4 months we've had no various types of junk silver have the Constitution 90% silver dimes quarters, whatever, have been in or out of stock depending on what. So you're at that level where you're kind of, it's like when you're dog paddling just so you don't drown. Then all of a sudden you're kind of going a little bit below the water and then a little bit above the water. So you guys keep spitting out water. You're like at that raggedy edge, and it's taking twice as much work as it used to just maintain that level. So people who say, hey, yeah, I remember back in a few months in the COVID crisis, a lot of the online sites said notify me because everybody was having, logistics shipping chain disruptions. But now that's pretty much cleared and there's more stuff in stock. That's true at the moment. It's taking a lot more work. People, and even the dealers are having to pay much higher premiums than they ever paid before to get that stuff back in stock, because everybody along the way is having to cover several risks. And that's one of the risks, is the risks of the lack of replenishment. John Adams, the economist from Australia, who we interview about once a month here, and we're going to be having him back on shortly, did a big analysis chart, and it shows 5 different major strain points in the global supply chain, from mines to refining and smelting to minting to or pre-minting, which is where the planchettes are made before they go to the final minting, and then to the retail distributors and so on. And there's 5 major, and the COMEX market is in there as well. And all of those are strain points where shortages have shown up in the past. So the coup de grace, the final big thing to remember, is what Rick Rule talks about, is that less than 0.5% of all investments the people in the United States have in everything is in precious metals, or even precious metals related stocks and so on, and exchange traded funds. So in the past, the average is 2% to 2.5%, 4 to 5 times that amount. If we were just to go from where we are today, given everything that's happened, if we were to just go to the average, we would need 4 to 5 times as much metal to satisfy the demand. And based on everything that's been having, I told you that almost drowning story that's having to be done to try to keep that would be the ability to keep inventory replenished. And we would go to a completely different place in the price curve, and we would have to be relying on people being willing to part with their metals at those higher prices. So it's a completely different world.
Yeah, and I know one thing. Forgive me, Jim from Wall Street Silver.
Jim Lewis
from Wall Street Silver was talking about the other day is, the what is public data on people taking delivery of
out of the
silver,
COMEX, draining the COMEX and building up the
Um,
PSLV inventory. Yeah.
At one point there was 100, like it was not even that long ago, a few months last year, around this time I think it was, that there was 160 million ounces that were just in the COMEX being traded and that kind of thing, and
In the warehouses.
in the warehouse. 90 million of that has been taken for personal delivery in the last year, and so
So more than half of Elvis has left the building.
yes, yeah. So
and here's the real kicker. It's not just when we talked about if the 0.5% of the U.S. that are participating in this goes back to the normal 2%.
right.
Back in 2011, when the price went up really high in silver, it was 8%. So the other thing to realize is that people who are saying, "Oh, it's not so urgent to get your stuff now," because see, most dealers still have something. It's like, if you don't have enough yet, that's I'm speaking from my preparedness standpoint. If you don't have enough stored food for your family, if you don't have enough stored, cash to tide you through, if you don't have enough stored bullion to carry you through you decide, how long do you want? 3 months, 6 months, a year, multi-years? How long do you want to be able to keep your family going financially? What's enough from a financial preparedness standpoint in your opinion, for your family? That's an answer that only you can give.
Yeah.
But I would encourage you to think in terms of 6 months, a year, 2 months, 2 years, because we really don't know how long a major disruption would be in our financial system. But anyway, if you aren't ready with those things yet, then what are you waiting for? Because if you wait, remember what happened when COVID hit, or remember what happens when a big storm.
Yeah, how long do you want to wait for toilet paper?
Yeah,
before the supply
so
chain
if there's
kicks
something
back
you
in?
know you're probably going to need, like life jackets if you're on a boat, or toilet paper if you're in a house, or precious metals to be a solid savings account for your family, and they're available now, that's a time when they're available. But if you wait until it becomes obvious to your neighbors and everybody that it's important that the stock market and the bond market and the real estate market are not going to be the places to maintain value, and that cash is being devalued down the drain and at an accelerating rate, so that savings accounts, checking accounts, et cetera, aren't the places to be, which is another whole thing. We haven't talked about Dodd-Frank. Oh my gosh. Another whole topic. If you guys want to talk about it, is nothing in the bank is yours. We'll talk about that if you want to. But the idea is that when your neighbors all wake up, if you don't already have your precious metals, there won't be any to be had. That's all. Mike Maloney has called that, it'll become unobtainium.
Mhm.
So just something to think about is, from a preparedness standpoint, and it has nothing to do just with precious metals. From a preparedness standpoint, if this is a time when you can get something that you think you really probably should have, then don't expect you'll be able to get it when everybody else thinks that they probably should have it too.
Mhm.
That's all.
And I think one other thing about that big order that even people in the chat here were mentioning is that, Andy had to take future allocations out to the mid-August or even late August
To satisfy that big order, and
that
besides
one
going,
order. Yeah.
and besides cleaning out major distributors all around the country.
Mhm.
Yeah,
So-
it wasn't like going to one distributor's getting
So,
that
so,
right away to
so,
their
so,
door.
and
But, yeah.
Andy's not an average guy. He's been in this industry for 33 years. He has deep connections, personal
Mhm.
relationships with all these different distributors. So for one big fish client doing one
One,
initial order, that was just their starter order to see how this all went, this guy who's got 33 years in the experience and has relationships all over the place had to clean out distributor after distributor after distributor after distributor to get that order filled. Now there was some concern raised about, well,
Yeah, I saw that.
will there be any left for us if a big fish can clean off the shelves? And Andy was faced with that very question, and he tried to convince them to take not just all silver, but to take gold in addition, and to take it in all US. They talked about taking US coins. He said, and thank goodness they wanted US coins, because that left all these other categories.
and that someone else had asked, do you guys have any silver left at all? And we do have, we have amazingly some still sovereign coins in stock. We have, I think it's a couple of week delay on generic rounds.
There's now a delay on kilo bars. Kilo bars they are an amazing value. They're still an amazing value, like the Swiss Val Canby bars at 325 over spot, amazing value. And now they're on a week delay. So anyway, this is going to happen. It's just to be expected, but don't let that stop you. But yes, we do have some bars, some rounds.
Yeah.
The Buffalo rounds are delayed.
Yeah. That's it. Yeah.
So again, the most popular things are going to run out first, and they are working very hard on replenishment. But the replenishment cycle, again, they're booking this stuff out 3 months in advance, and that depends on a lot of pieces coming into play. It means they have to get their planchets in, they have to get the manufacturing done, they got to get the allocations shipped out the way they expected. The logistics has to happen. So there's a lot of counterparty risks in that replenishment cycle. So some clients, clever ones, I think, are asking me when they call, what do you have in stock?
Starting the conversation,
paying by wire, and they get their stuff the same week, and they're like so happy. And other people say, no, I always order silver buffaloes because that's what I always order. And it's like, okay, we can do that, but you're going to wait a month for them to get in, assuming they come in on time. So, but that's totally up to you. Just be aware that while you're deliberating about things, the spot price, the premiums, and the availability are all things that none of us can predict what happens tomorrow. There was one more thing about all that availability when the crunch time comes. It's just that every operation along this chain of from mine to refiner and smelter to pre-minting to minting to final distribution and so on requires a whole bunch of companies all doing things smoothly, and it assumes supply and demand being balanced enough for the flow to happen along the way. So there can be pinch points at any time.
And that's something to that point, again, to mention something that Mr. Friedland said during his talk. He was talking about, I think was it Nomi Prince who was also mentioning it, was about just remembering that mining is an operation that it takes 10 years to get a mine
permitted,
really up
and
running properly. And for the last few decades,
they've been lagging behind.
And there are almost no primary silver mines. Silver's mine, it comes along with some other
the byproduct of other metals.
And so one of these things that that when we run out, if and when it happens, it'll be a while before more comes back. So that it's something that, like grocery stores, when they all ran out of toilet paper, instead of being a couple of weeks to replace, it'll be a much larger supply chain disruption event than that. So
I see some questions. William Mueller's talking about security features. Do bars have them? Does it matter? Earlier, someone was asking about coins that have security features. Some people have a love-hate relationship with the idea of security features on bullion. Miles Franklin, again, tries to do everything that we can to ensure your privacy and your personal property rights. So we want to do anything we can to support you in that. Some people are concerned that some of the added security features that some of the mints, the Canadian Royal Mint has probably been the leader. They're usually 2 to 3 years ahead of everybody else in terms of adding security features to their coins and bars. And then some of the other mints are now starting to follow with some micro engraving on their coins as well. But there's been everything from sort of like urban legends to factual things about these security features. For example, there was concern that the Canadian mints, what they call a mint ID that they put on their coins, was a chip, a microchip that could be used to like scan, like where's your stuff hidden in your house or that kind of stuff. It is not. From all the information we've had is that if you look at a Canadian maple leaf coin, either a silver or a gold maple leaf, you see a tiny little circle about the size of like a trademark circle underneath the main maple leaf, and inside that little circle is another maple leaf. And on that maple leaf is the last two digits of the year. It also is like the little veins in the maple leaf, and it's all micro engraved with laser and so on. And they take a high resolution photograph of that when they're manufacturing the coin, and they save that on file on their server. So if you were to take one of your coins or a coin that someone claimed was a legitimate silver or gold Canadian maple leaf and take it to a high resolution camera reader and take a picture of it, there's a device that can upload that picture and do a cross check to make sure that it actually matches one that actually came from the mint, so that it's not just a fake. So that's pretty sophisticated, but it is not like a active responder RFID technology built into the coin at all. And then there was also concern that the type 1 to type 2 conversion of the American Silver Eagle that just happened last year, which caused a 3.5 months outage at the US Mint, one of many outages. was the introduction of a hidden microchip inside the coin or some other nefarious security feature that was going to be traceable, trackable, that kind of thing. But all that has emerged after all that hoopla, besides just some engraving changes, which people have whatever feelings they have about artistically, was that one of the ridges on the bottom of the coin was eliminated. And then I see that different years of issue, they leave off a different one of those. It seems like working its way around the clock to help correlate with the year of minting, so that trying to keep one step ahead of random potential counterfeiters who might be trying to make knockoff coins, that kind of thing. Oh, and that's just another thing. Somebody sent me a website, some screenshots a few months ago, and it was just astonishing. Full boxes, monster boxes of American Silver Eagles for like $1,000, or full monster boxes of gold with American Gold Eagles for like $100,000 or $50,000 or something. And it was just absolutely impossible, like 1% of what the normal price should be. If you see prices that seem too good to be true, what do you think to say, finish that sentence? Probably too good to be true. So anyway, make sure that if you're considering dealing with a dealer, that you find one that's legitimate. I mean, one shameless plug here for Miles Franklin: A+ rated by the Better Business Bureau, fully accredited by the Better Business Bureau, 33 years now of operation with 0 customer complaints on file with the Better Business Bureau. So bonded, one of the only bonded dealers in the country under the state of Minnesota. So just make sure who you're dealing with. Okay. Are there more questions or other things we didn't touch on there?
Yeah, I think just with respect to investing in precious metals in the different kinds, it sometimes can be a bit complicated. We're talking about the security features on some products, others don't. Coins versus bars and everything like that. I think, as Andy Scheckman often says, at the end of the day, it's going to be the number of ounces you have that matters the most. And if you do purchase from a reputable bullion dealer, like ourselves, we guarantee the authenticity of everything we sell. And if you're selling back eventually to a major bullion dealer, typically, they're going to be purchasing back any product that's 3/9 fine or junk silver as well. But I think it's important to remember, at the end of the day, as Andy Scheckman says, the most important thing is to, at the end of the day, it's the number of ounces that matters.
Mark Nelson says, do you test all outgoing coins for authenticity? Two-part answer. One part, Mark, is that the vast majority of what Miles Franklin sells comes directly from mints. So we buy directly from the US Mint, the UK Mint, the Austrian Mint, the South African Mint, the Australian Mint. So the coin, and the British and the Canadian Mint and the US Mint. So all the coins we get directly from the mint come in on pallets. They're all mint sealed boxes. Those go right out the door without getting any further testing because we got them straight from the mint. That's the vast majority.
And then anything that is secondary market that we have,
meaning bought back from either other coin dealers, coin shops, or straight from individuals.
Yeah, in all those cases, yes, those are tested when they're incoming. So before they ever go out, they're going to have been tested.
They don't even make it into our inventory unless they've been validated. Some of the easier validations include some just weighing, but there's also X-ray equipment and also electromagnetic scanning equipment to test for the potential for like coated metals that it's not solid all the way through. So those are the types of testing. If you want to get an inside glance at that, go to our YouTube site where you are, youtube.com/liberty and finance, and just search for the one called Inside the Bullion Miles Franklin Bullion Operations. And inside Miles Franklin's bullion operations, and there's a little video I shot in there of them doing some electromagnetic testing of a gold bar that proved, even though it looked beautiful, Perth mint gold bar in a plastic card, that it was not gold. So that was caught when it was on incoming. So nothing goes into our inventory. And for example, if someone's selling us something and they claim, hey, I'm going to sell you 100 gold eagles, we go, great. Love. What condition are they in? Are they brilliant uncirculated? Yes, they are. Okay. And then package them up, ship them in. And when they come in, they are inspected and validated before the payment goes out and before they get put into our inventory. Mm-hmm. And by the way, Miles Franklin guarantees the authenticity 100% of anything that they sell. So whenever you buy from Miles Franklin, that gets back to that 0 customer complaints in 33 years. It is 100% guaranteed for authenticity. You purchase, Miles Franklin stands behind it, will make it right if there's ever any concern, which there hasn't been. So. Other questions?
This is kind of an interesting one about, what is the premium made up of? Like, who's getting the money and the premium? That's from sportgus.com.
Yeah, so it varies depending on the type of product and it varies strongly between gold versus silver versus platinum. But even within, say, silver, it varies enormously between like the American Silver Eagle versus Buffalo Silver Rounds versus 100-ounce bars. But in general, there are the layers of premium. If you think about it, that the base layer is the metal price. It's the raw material from which the product is manufactured. Okay, and then above that raw metal price, which we all know is the nominal price on the commercial metal exchanges, whether it's the COMEX market or the LBME, that metal is being traded at. Then there's usually a conversion to physical. Every time it has to get handled or transferred, repackaged and shipped, there's going to be costs incurred along the way. So all the way from the 1,000-ounce COMEX bars that are sitting in a COMEX warehouse, when those get shipped to some mint that's going to then take that down melt it down and put it into finished form, or some even refine it further, like the Canadian Royal Mint takes it up to 4/9 fine before they put it in their product. That's cost that's being added there in part of the minting process. In the case of coins, like American Silver Eagles or British, this has come up twice in the past year. Remember about 6 months ago, give or take, the British Royal Mint had an interruption, no production of silver Britannias for a while because they couldn't replenish with their planchettes, which are these the round blanks from which they stamp in the minting process the final coins. And now the American Mint, the U.S. Mint, just announced about a month ago that they were having interruptions in the production of American Silver Eagles because they couldn't purchase silver close enough to spot price to honor their charter rules that they had to, the guidelines and the bylines and their rules that they had to, their charter says they can only buy not at high prices far from the spot price to be good custodians for the U.S. Stockholder, whatever, citizens. And so there are reasons why some of these is evidence that there's sometimes price differences between the raw material price versus the pre-minted price versus the minted price. And then there are authorized mint buyers that are huge nationwide distributors. I believe there's only 4 of those that are controlling all the output from the U.S. Mint, for example, going to the 27 authorized resellers and then to the retail stores. So if you're dealing from a local coin shop or a small dealer, they have to buy from one of the 27 mint authorized resellers. With Miles Franklin, you're dealing directly with one of the 27 U.S. mint authorized resellers. But the many layers of, and there are finally, so any of the, then the final commissions for anyone who's involved in a sale, whether it's the website method of selling or whether it's through a broker. So every one of those steps along the way, from the creation of the pre-minted product to the minted product, the shipping, it has to be insured, it has to be hedged. There's costs everywhere along the way that add up to those costs of doing business. So it's almost like asking, what's the difference between the price of steel versus the price of an Audi? It's like, well, an Audi is manufactured primarily from steel, but there's a lot of steps in between steel and an Audi, and there are costs everywhere along the way for those.
And it's interesting to note as well, if you're paying more for a particular coin or a particular bar, you're probably going to get a slightly higher premium back when selling.
Generally follows that rule,
right?
But that whole scale is relative.
Exactly.
So in the old days, shoot, 2.5 years ago, American Silver Eagles were way up at $2.50 or $2.69 over spot, and the Canadian maples were maybe 50 cents behind them, and all the other mints were 50 cents behind those, and then the rounds were 50 cents behind that, and then like that. So everything had to squeeze in between that $2.69. But now that range has moved up to where 100-ounce bars and kilo bars are at $3, $3.25, and then you go up to $4.50 for the cheapest sovereign minted coins, and then up to $6.50 or whatever for Canadians, and up to $13.50 for US.
And sometimes those relationships can change in the sense of like what the status of sovereigns is,
supply and demand.
Like what we've seen with junk silver here.
It emerged. It used to be below.
It was $1.99 to get all the junk silver you wanted, and now you're paying above $8 over spot to get junk silver, and that is directly for sure a function of supply. Like Andy says, they're not making any more of it, and so whenever we run out, we don't know the next place is that we're gonna get it. we still have some, but we routinely sell out of it and have to just wait for someone to pass away and have their junk silver sold.
Yeah, there's no
like that's the
no mint source. There's no
yeah.
there's no first market source for Constitution 90% silver. It is all buybacks from various. There are some major hoards from private investors that have been. Some of that got melted down back in 1980. Some of it got melted down in 2011. So there's even less than there used to be. Really. Local sources. So you guys were in the natural resource symposium here talking about. They may talk about energy shortages coming.
Yeah, I mean, they said that I mean, people talked about actually the energy shortages and prices as a kind of from a lot of different aspects. One, from talking about how they've cleverly taken that out of the inflation calculation as far as the energy that it takes to get to get your kids to school, to go grocery shopping and that kind of thing, that they're only counting the price of it as opposed to the energy usage costs and stuff too. Multiple people talking about the fragility of the United States power grid, and how much of that is just based on it hasn't been updated in over 100 years. 106-year-old power line that caused the fire in California, Northern California to go that. And so I've had clients who are like truckers and stuff like that, and also mentioned it at the conference here, talk about how the cost of diesel is not directly impacting food prices, but also could be related to could be part of a looming food shortage, not because there's not enough food, not because it didn't get, but because there's not, it costs too much to harvest it.
Yeah.
And that's crazy, but that's
so by the same notion, mining is a form of harvesting something from nature, and it absolutely can cause disruptions in mining operations. And a lot of those in South America, I know some of those mines are extremely remote. They're way up in mountainous regions, and it's all operated by trucked in diesel. We've from First locating some solar with in some. They're trying to find cogeneration opportunities, because if they are 100% diesel dependent for their remote operations, and that has to come over a very long and treacherous roads and all that sort of thing, and trucking has to be working and everything, shipping, et cetera, for that to happen. So it's a real concern. It's good concern. It's another example of where we shouldn't be assuming. You mentioned Nomi Prenz and others talking about how we're coming out of a decade or more of lack of sufficient mine exploration development to keep up with the burgeoning demand for metal. So it's a very good, and energy is going to be a major part of making sure that metal can move where it needs to move. Even the smelting and refining process is very energy intensive, and so on. So, yeah.
Just kind of another thing that shows that the supply of precious metals could be curtailed. And it's sometimes, we were talking about the demand right now. We can still get metal, but it is a lot more difficult than it was just a few days ago just a few years ago, I should say, to get physical bullion. And as we mentioned, that $50 million order, Andy had to go to multiple distributors and get future allocations out to like end of August. So
there was a question here I thought that was interesting. I must have just gone off screen. Oh shoot, it was about, isn't the U.S. Mint constrained by its charter to, isn't the U.S. Mint supposed to make silver coins available? Yes, in fact, that's part of their charter, is that they're required to make them available in the quantities demanded or required by the U.S. People. And yet they also have contradicting statements in there saying, but they're not allowed to buy silver if it's too far from the market price. And so there's, and then they got shut down multiple times because of COVID. So you can make your own conclusions around that, but just to say that if you presume that there will never be a shortage of coins just because it says in their charter in one sentence that they're supposed to keep up, they haven't. Every year, Andy says they run out, always in October, November, December, they run short and they don't catch up till February again. So and in this case, they shut down for 3.5 months of last year to retool from type 1 to type 2. So there's all kinds of examples of places that they have not kept up with demand, not even close.
And I guess the last thing we could discuss then is we have a list in the description of this video, everything that you can, all the information that you can get just by emailing us at libertyandfinance.com. A couple of the interesting info regarding precious metal investing is the 1099 reportable list. So when you're selling back your metals, what do we have to report? That's the only time reporting happens is when you sell back your metals
To a dealer.
To a dealer.
Not just
And-
Miles Franklin, it's any dealer.
Exactly.
Any
To
dealer
any
is
dealer.
subject to 1099 reporting if you sell certain types of products in certain quantities. Most types of coins, for example, are not on that list. So it's very interesting to see what that list is. It might guide you in deciding what you want to buy so that you have things that are not reportable, but that's not dealer reportable. Whether you agree with it or not, and that would be a whole nother discussion, there are these rules from the IRS about what's mandated dealer reporting versus self-reportable by an
Capital
individual,
gains and-
capital gains taxes, that kind of thing. So, yep.
If you have any questions like that, just put 1099 in the topic of the email, and then we'll reply to you with that information. As well, we came out with a golden guide to investing in precious metals, which goes over all the major topics we've discussed today regarding precious metals. So just title your email guide or free guide, and we'll send you that. If you have questions about storage, we'll send you information on that.
Just put the word storage in the title of
Storage
the
in
email.
the title of the email. So
Or
any
IRAs.
questions,
If you're interested in IRAs.
any questions you have, just email us at libertyandfinance@protonmail.com. Email in the description of this video. As well, you can call us at 888-81-LIBERTY. That's 888-815-4237. Any last thoughts?
One last thought that I would mention, we've had the question a number of times come up of like, are you guys open on the weekend? Or they call on the weekend and go, oh, I didn't think you guys would be open.
I thought I'd be talking to an answer machine, not to a real
We are
person.
open on the weekend. So even though the spot price is frozen as the COMEX closes
From
Friday afternoon and
6 p.m. Eastern on Friday to 6 p.m. Eastern on Sunday, the price will not change, but
we can still help you. We can still lock in orders. Miles Franklin hedges a bunch over the weekend so that we can still fulfill your orders and get you a spot price where it froze on Friday night. So yeah.
So if you like Friday's,
Friday's spot price,
closing spot price, you can get that all till Sunday night.
Yeah.
And another question I get often is, are you open this late or whatever? We actually take shifts with, we all answer the
I'm the
calls.
morning guy.
Yep, and we're in different time zones as well.
He's the
So,
afternoon guy.
Yeah, so we take,
on nights and weekends.
exactly. So pretty much anytime you're going to be calling, one of us will answer, and if we don't, should get back to you within hopefully 30 minutes or so. So yeah, just to clarify that.
Yeah, ordinarily there's only about 4 hours that we don't have to immediately cover in the space of a 24-hour day.
Well, I don't get up quite that early.
Okay, 4.5 hours.
Anyway, and we can't always make it the 30-minute callback target that we like to set for ourselves. It totally depends on the call volume as well. On the busy days when the stock market is melting down and Putin says something provocative or Jay Powell does or whatever, the phone might start ringing off the hook. But we do it in order that the calls come in as fast as we can. And if we really get backlog, we rely on each other to help bail each other out. So don't hesitate to call or text any time of day. You can call our number again, 888-81-LIBERTY, 888-81-LIBERTY, or you can, when you talk to us, we'll give you our individual direct contact numbers. You could text us also if you need to for any reason. And just thanks to everyone for being here. I see so many people who have been participating in so many of these live chats together. It's great to see everyone pulling together and trying to help each other out. Make sure you spread this video, share it with your friends. Hopefully this can help answer some questions that newbies have, but really that free guide that Elijah wrote called the Golden Guide. If you just write free guide and email us at libertyandfinance@protonmail.com, it really answers a whale of a lot of the questions that newbies have. And then it might have to focus down your questions to really specific ones that are unique to your situation, which is a really fruitful and productive way to get the conversation moving.
All right. Well, everyone, thank you so much for joining us today, and have a great rest of the weekend, and God bless.
Take care, everybody.
See ya.